With the first pick in the 2019 NBA Draft, the New Orleans Pelicans select Zion Williamson from Duke.
Up for the layup! Oh, blocked by James! They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, a spectacular move by Michael Jordan. Right back out to Allen. His three-pointer. Bang! Mamba out.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Shot Clock Podcast. As you know, I'm your host, Nathan Shawl. We're back again. The NBA officially restarted. We had the preseason, but when you're listening to this, the regular season will have started up. We're playing the 8-game play-in tournament, going back into the league. We're going to go into a playoff series. But what a wild preseason it was. We watched some of Kawhi's struggles. We watched the Lakers go 2-1. We watched the Trailblazers kind of fail compared to what thoughts would have been. You know, you'd expect them to be a better team, go 0-3 in the preseason, but it's all right. They're going to come in, hopefully be strong enough going in. There's so many great teams they got to watch. The Grizzlies struggled. The Pelicans did better than what I thought they would. Yeah, they went like 0-3, but man, they put up a fight against these great teams without Zion being there. But there's so many wild teams to watch. It's a great matchup. You know, you watch all these teams, they're so even. It's such a, like what I said last week, it's an even playing field now. Every team's getting their rest. They're coming back in. Some teams you could tell are worse than others. For example, the Washington Wizards, you know, they've lost Bradley Beal because of the coronavirus. They lost John Wall already. He hasn't played for the past 2 years. Two of those guys, their main factors have been out for a while that aren't going to play in the restart. You know, they're already the 9th seed in the East, not going to make it past the play-in tournament. But it's crazy, you know. It's just so wild to think about how fast everything's escalating. We went from waiting for these teams to get in the bubble, and now we're going to see about 22 teams playing. So there's going to be about 6 teams leaving the bubble once the play-in tournament ends. It's so crazy to me to think about. Like, just 2 months ago, we weren't even sure if there was going to be an NBA season returning. We weren't even sure if there was going to be an MLB season. We weren't sure there was going to be more UFC we're pretty sure about. But there's so many sports that we weren't sure about. And now they're coming back, and we're watching these teams leave the playoffs, leave the play-in tournament, watching players go, players come in. It's just crazy to see the adversity that the league has shaped up to compared to how it was 4 months ago, 3 months ago, 2 months ago now. And it's putting that positive factor back on life that we have sports to watch. We have some more entertainment other than watching reruns of the sitcoms and TV shows. But what I want to talk about first is Paul Pierce. Came out with a statement the other day saying if LeBron James wins his 4th title this season, he's going to put it back in his top 5. Paul Pierce already came out with a wild take a while back saying LeBron James isn't even my top 10. Said Kobe was his top, was at 10. So many weird statements coming out of Paul Pierce, which is expected from a guy like that. He got obliterated by LeBron in the playoffs. LeBron joined the Heat. The Heat destroyed the Celtics, and Paul Pierce always came out with those very controversial statements about players. He said weird things about Luka, plenty of controversial statements about all these guys. But a guy like LBJ, you can't not say he's not in your top 5. Yeah, he's only gone 3 for 9 in the finals, made it 9 straight times in the finals, only won 3 of those, and you can't say that he's not in the top 5. Not even top 3, because name a player that's going to be able to do that on their own with such terrible rosters around them. You watch the 2017 or 2018 Cavaliers, terrible roster, got swept by the Warriors. He's faced so many super teams. Yes, the Dirk Nowitzki time where they lost against Dirk in the 2010 finals, or no, that wasn't 2010, 2011 finals. That wasn't one that he should have lost because they kind of had the advantage over roster and depth, but Nowitzki, you know, he pulled it out, man. He did great, and he ended up finishing and winning that series, beat the Lakers, had a historical run in the playoffs there, which puts him at like top 20 NBA all time. But LBJ is a guy that's made it countless times to the finals, proved countless times that he has what it takes to make it to the finals. And for Paul Pierce, someone that's only made it to the finals because of the help he's had. He's not even been the top player on every team he's been on. He's always been the second or the third option. He's never been that guy that you want on your team. And for him to come out about a statement like that, saying LeBron's not in the top 5, is just wild to me. Who else are you going to put your top 5? Yeah, you've got great historic players, Kareem, Magic Johnson, so many guys that you could switch in and out of there. But you're going to put Magic Johnson. People said LeBron James is like the modern, better version of Magic Johnson. If you put Magic Johnson in this era today, Ben Simmons is the exact player. You're going to say Ben Simmons is in your top 5? Because that's what I'm hearing, is you match those two players. Those two players play exactly alike, same exact thing, and he's in top 5 over LeBron. When LeBron's Magic Johnson, but 20 times better, has a three-pointer, better passer, better finisher, better everything, and he's not in the top 5. Legacy, not so great, but athleticism, skill, what he's been able to do compared to many other players is just wild that he's not in my top 5 to me. Which brings up another topic. I've seen many other sports networks talk about this. LeBron James, is he still the best player in the world? This has been a topic that's reoccurred around for the past 2 years, kind of floated up and down here and there. Last year it was really heavily talked about after he didn't make the playoffs following a groin injury. But is he still the best? We watched Kawhi. Kawhi had a historic playoffs run last year, which arguably put him as the best player in the world. Do I agree that he was the best player in the world at that time? No. Because Kevin Durant was injured. Kevin Durant was the best player in the world before that finals win from Kawhi. If Kevin Durant wasn't injured, he would have showed you why he was the best player. He came in off an injury, dropped 50 points in the game against the Blazers. And then he got injured again, missed most of the finals, and then came in, tore his ACL, and then was out for the season. Now he's got another chance back with the Nets this next season. Will he be as good? No. But that's not the point I'm trying to get here. The point I'm trying to get is LeBron's not the best. Kawhi is not the best. Giannis isn't the best. Kevin Durant's the best player in the world. Kevin Durant, no other guy has what Kevin Durant has. No other guy has the athleticism. No other guy has the scoring. No other guy has the post fadeaway. No other guy has the guts to post up on you, hit that fadeaway in your face, and show no remorse after. Just walk right off. His defense is tremendous. He's playing at like 7'1". Yeah, his actual people say as high as 6'10", but you watch him against many other players. You cannot tell me he's not 7'1". He's towering over LeBron. He's towering over all these other players that said to be 6'10". And if I believe it right, earlier in the season when they made them come out their actual listings, it was 7'1". He's such a tremendous scorer. He's like Kobe. He's like Kobe in this modern day if Kobe was 7 inches taller. And for him to be that agile on his feet, no other guy's going to do that. Kristaps Porzingis, he's at 7'2". He's slow, little hefty around the rim, finishes off, Boban Marjanovic. He's 7'6" and barely finishing very well. Insanely tall guy. Kevin Durant's right up there with those big guys, and he's doing everything better than any big has ever done, better than any small forward has ever done. Will his legacy go down as a top 3 player? No. But he'll go down as one of the best players of all time. He's going to be like one of those guys like Kobe where he's gone, you miss him, you put him in your top 3, but you can argue around it. In my top 3, no, not really. But is he the best player currently in this NBA? Yes. But while he's out, it's Giannis. Giannis has taken that position while KD's been out. You put Giannis in there, he's another big guy, 6'11", averaging 33 points a game, 14 rebounds, 6 assists, 1.2 blocks a game. Insane stats for such a big guy. And he's taken over that role as I'm the best player in the world now with his Greek accent, while KD's kind of sitting there in his hospital bed resting up, getting ready for the next season. It's going to be a showdown next year between these 3 players, LeBron, Kawhi, KD, and Giannis. It's going to be a showdown. Even you could throw Luka in up there. Luka's going to have a showdown with all of them too. He's going to be going in his 3rd year. Which that kind of brings me into, with Luka, who has the better MVP odds in 5 years? So many great young players in this generation. I don't think there's ever been this many talented players in the NBA before. Ben Simmons, Trae Young, Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, Luka Doncic, De'Aaron Fox you could even throw in there, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, John Morant. So many talented young guys. You have 5 years. Who's winning the MVP out of these guys? Luka is great. I think he's going to win the MVP within the next 5 years as well. Trae Young, though, I think he has that perfect roster built around him. It's the exact roster that Stephen Curry had kind of built around him. You got the Splash Bros between him and Kevin Huerter right now, even though Kevin Huerter is not the exact ideal Splash Bro you'd want. You've got John Collins. You've got Clint Capella now, who didn't even get to play a full season with him. Only got to play about 10 games with him before the season was suspended. I can imagine that team making it to the 9th seed with, yeah, they were like won 15 games, but the 9th seed wasn't too far away, about 14 games away. I think they would have won it, would have made it to that 9th seed and been to the very far brink to making it to the playoffs and kind of showed we've got promise. We're going to be that best team next year. I honestly could see where even Trae Young pulls something out and wins MVP next year. He's such a great player, averaging like 30 points a game, 7 assists a game. He's such a versatile scorer and passer that not many players have that ability. LeBron's one of those players that have that ability, but he's not young anymore. He's not going to win an MVP for a while. This is his only year to shot at that. But Trae Young, he is like 12 more years, 13 more years before he can retire, or before he would want to retire, unless an injury happens and kind of throws it off along the way. But for him to be averaging, in his second year, he's only 21 years old, averaging 30 and 7 assists a game, that's insane. He's nearing a double-double in his second year in the league. Luka Doncic nearing a triple-double in his second year in the league. I think Trae's roster in the future is going to be better than what Luka's is. Luka has Chris Porzingis. He has Jalen Brunson. He has Delon Wright, Seth Curry. All guys that know what their role is. All guys that know how to score the ball. All guys that know how to pass the ball. All guys that know how to handle the ball. But Trae Young has such a greatly fitting team. So young. Luka's roster is a lot older than what this Hawks team is. The Hawks team is so young, though. They show so much promise, so much of what they can be. And when you watch one of their games, you watch it and you're like, how are they've only won 15 games this season? How have they lost 50 games this season? Because they fit so well together. But their defense is what they lack on. And them bringing in Clint Capella, it's going to help them so much. It's going to show, because right now people think Trae Young, his stats are bottomless. If you watch the game, they're not bottomless at all. And so you've got a perfect passing opportunity between that Capella and Collins. It's just Trae Young's assist is going to go up by 2 next season. His points are going to go probably about down 2 points a game. But it's going to show what it takes to be the MVP, what he really is. And he has this whole 6-month rest until October. He's going to come in stronger than ever. It's going to be great for a guy like Trae Young to be able to have this roster around him. I do got to make a case for Tatum, though. Tatum, I don't think he's gonna be. I don't think he was gonna win MVP. He's gonna be like Kobe, where Kobe won 1 MVP and it was about in his 7th, 8th year in the league. And a couple times he got robbed, obviously. But Tatum's he's a great scorer. He didn't really show any tremendous ability until about this season when he averaged about 23 points a game. And whenever he showed, because that stretch where you had Kemba Walker out for about a month or so, he was out, and he kind of showed that he could take up that leadership role. Yeah, his first season without Kyrie, they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, and we're 1 game away from making it past the Cleveland Cavaliers and LeBron James. They're 1 game away. At 19 years old, Tatum did all that and would have made it to the Eastern Conference Finals and was the Celtics' best player on their roster. They had a great roster built around them. Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, so many great guys. And those guys are all young. They're all going to grow up with each other. They're all going to fit around each other. They're all about 23 years old each. They're all each growing together. And you can see as the seasons go on that this team is really, really getting the feel for each other. This team's going to be probably a best team in the league within the next 3 years. Because you're losing, Giannis is going into free agency in 2 years. He's going to be that big X factor in those playoffs, kind of like or in that free agency, kind of like how Kawhi was, where it's like, where's Kawhi go? Is this team going to be the best in the league? And that team's still not the best in the league. There's so many young teams that prove that. They had the potential. And the Celtics is one of those teams that prove that they're one of the best in the league. They're only like 3 games behind beating the Clippers in a record. I think they're like the 3rd seed right now in the, they're the 3rd seed right now in the Eastern Conference behind the Bucks and the Raptors. it's amazing to watch a player like Tatum do all of this at such a young age, have so many feats built up, but he's just not going to win MVP. He's just not the guy to get the MVP. He's not the best, and he's not ever going to be the best in the league. He's going to show he's the best on his team, but never the best in the league. So real quick, I brought on Tatum, kind of about the Celtics. Do they have a real shot in this playoffs? And I would like to say, I'm going to be honest, they don't have a real shot. They went 1-3 in this preseason. They showed kind of a little fatigue yesterday against the Houston Rockets. James Harden had 35 points. Tatum had about 19. The Celtics lost by 20. It was 135-112. And the Celtics just kind of got blown out of water, if I'm being honest. It wasn't a very good game all around. It looked like a varsity versus JV game. Russell Westbrook had a pretty great game as well, 19 points. And it's like, when you're going up against a small ball Rockets team, and you're such a big team like the Celtics, such a versatile team, such a great defensive team, I expect you to win that. You've got to win that every time. You're going up in a series against them. Let's say they're both in the Eastern Conference. That should be a 4-0 sweep, Celtics. No problem. They're such a small team, but it's surprising to see how well they beat them. The Rockets traded away all their centers. They even got rid of who was the guy they got rid of? His name was Zach. I can't remember his last name. But they got rid of him, released him free agency, picked up like David Nwaba, and went complete small ball over this little coronavirus suspension. And now they're back, and they're showing what they have. They're 2-1 in the preseason. They're going into the regular season, first games in a couple of days from now. And they're going to show so much great scoring, but their rebounding is going to go down. Russell Westbrook's aggressive, but too small to get a rebound over so many big guys in the paint. And they lost Eric Gordon as well, and Eric Gordon was playing their 3 spot at the small forward, and they lost him for 2 weeks. That's really going to screw them up in the playoff play-in tournament, which is really going to mess them up long term. But it's another guy. So with the Celtics, real shot or not, I gotta say not a real shot. Like how I said, they lost that game. They've got teams like the Raptors going up against. That's going to be a hard matchup. They even struggle against the OKC Thunder. The Thunder had tremendous showing out in the preseason, and they struggle against a team like that, a team that was projected like 27th in the league this year. Not good at all. And they show up, and they're already 4th seed in the West. So let's go ahead and move on to Zach Levine. He wants out of Chicago. What's Chicago going to do if they lose Levine is my question. So Zach Levine, he's not been an all-star his whole career. He's been in the league for about 5 years. Traded from Minnesota to Chicago in about his second year. And he's shown a lot of promise in Chicago. He's shown stardom. He's shown what he has to take to be a future great player in the league. He's not shown that he's going to be one of the best players in the league, though. And he has a lot of trade value, though. If you're Chicago, do you want to look for some vets, or do you want to look for some more young guys? Do you want to trade him to a team like New York and get some first-round picks, or do you want to trade him to a team like the Lakers and get Kyle Kuzma, 25-year-old, and Danny Green, 33 years old, kind of going downhill after this season? Well, who are you going to look at for? Do you want shooters, or do you want young guys? Do you want older guys, or do you want picks? If I'm the Chicago Bulls, I'm not trading to the New York Knicks. Because here's the thing. Their pick, if they trade to the New York Knicks, they have to give up Zach Levine, Bobby Portis, a couple first. Do you really want a couple first and Bobby Portis for Zach Levine? Yes, those first. There's so many great draft classes coming up. But what are you going to do if the Knicks end up building the right roster? Because there's a great free agency ahead. Let's say they pick up Anthony Davis in this offseason, and then they have Zach Levine. That team's already going to be a top 5 team in the league. Do you really want to make that trade and risk yourself losing a future generational talent just to get some first-round picks that are only going to be about 27th to 20th pick? Well, that's my feelings on it. First-round picks are so they're not very well thought of. You know, they could always fall to be like a worst pick in the draft ever. or they could always fall to be the best pick, or they could rise and be the best pick in the draft. They're unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen with them. Like with the Lakers, they traded all their first to the Pelicans, and now the Pelicans are going to have the 30th pick in the draft this year if they end up winning it all. And it's just so unpredictable. It's like I can't make a trade for picks unless if I know that team's going to be bad for years to come. And if they trade Zach Levine to the Knicks, I guarantee you the Knicks are going to be a hot spot for free agents now, because not everybody wants to go to Chicago. Not everybody wants to play in Chicago is what I'm trying to get at. And people want to play in New York. New York's such a big market. New York's got talk shows there. They've got all these things that if you're a big name free agent, you're going to go there and you're going to want to advertise yourself. Similar to what Kawhi, Anthony Davis, and Paul George did in LA. They went to LA. Paul George has numerous ads this year. Kawhi Leonard was on the Terminator ad this year. Anthony Davis had the best sponsorship of his life, best sponsorship deal of his life this year. And that's the main reason why these players go to these big markets. They end up picking someone young and promising, and then they sign this player like Lebron. They had these three great young guys, young and promising, in Brandon Ingram, Lonzo, and Kuzma. LeBron comes there. LeBron gets sponsorships of his lifetime, gets a movie deal with Space Jam, and now he's making millions on millions of dollars already onto his $150 million contract. Anthony Davis comes there, already adding millions onto his $120 million contract. Kawhi Leonard, $130 million contract, adds millions. You get the idea with that. And that's a similar thing. If Zach Levine goes to the Knicks, it's going to be a hot spot for free agents now, because they've got a young and promising guy that's proven he can shoot the ball, he can dunk the ball, he can handle the ball, he can do whatever he wants. But what's his possibilities of going? What do I see more of him going to? I see a team like the Sixers is where he goes, because like I already said last episode, they're going to be looking for a trade between Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid this offseason if they fail. Unless if they get an opportunity to land a guy like Zach Levine. You get an opportunity to land a guy like Zach Levine, and you pair him alongside Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. And Zach Levine went back in an interview, All-Star break, he said, I want to be on a team with a guy that can pass the ball and then a guy that can finish the ball and catch the lob. It's kind of like the modern-day Lob City from what we saw in the 2010s. And people theorized, that's going to be LeBron and AD. I don't think it's going to be LeBron and AD. I don't think Chicago's going to make that deal for LeBron and AD. I think you can very well make a deal with Al Horford, and you throw in Josh Richardson or some young guy, Justice Winslow, not Justice Winslow, I apologize for that, Matisse Thybulle, or even Shake Milton. You throw in one of those guys, you get Zach Levine, and that matches up the salaries already. Zach Levine's already making $25 million. Tobias Harris is making $27 million. And then you throw in Zach Levine to that equation. You got Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Zach Levine, and Al Horford. So those are great, promising players. Al Horford's obviously his age is catching up to him, but it's a great roster. It's a roster that's going to be a top threat in the league. They're going to be top 3 in the league next year if they can make this deal done. Now, how well will he fit with the Lakers? The Lakers don't have enough salary to match. You have a $7 million contract in Danny Green, and you have a $3 million in Kuzma. And that's the ideal trade that I only see coming out of that. And that salary doesn't match up whenever you have $15 million left to make up. It's just not going to work out. Or if like Bradley Beal might be looking at a trade this offseason, it's kind of like that Bradley Beal thing. You want to trade him to the Nets, or is that going to be too much ISO? Kevin Durant, ISO player. Kyrie Irving, ISO player. Zach Levine, also an ISO player. And it's going to be hard for him to learn his role when he's already been playing 5 years in the league with his role always being, I've got to be the best on the roster, besides Karl-Anthony Townsend is in Cat's rookie year. It's a very challenging trade to make, but it's going to be a blockbuster trade in this offseason. It's going to because Zach Levine's deal expires in the 2022 free agency. So there's a lot of there's a lot of ideas that you can have out of it. Is it worth it to make this trade and then possibly lose him? But if he really wants out that bad, it might be the ideal trade you look for. So with this, we've got the season starting. What's tomorrow for me, but what's going to be about 3 days ago for you guys. The season started, and who's going to be that biggest shock that we have? The Raptors is one I look at. Their success has been overlooked. They're the team with the third most injuries in the league. I think in front of them is like the Pelicans and who was the other team? The Warriors, obviously, yeah. And those two teams are ahead of them in injuries, and those teams aren't even in the playoffs. The Raptors are third most in the league with injuries, and they're the third best record in the NBA. They're 2 games behind the Lakers, 3-4 games behind the Bucks. They can very well claim that spot once the season takes off this year. And I think they're going to be a team that could possibly claim a first seed next year or even this year. And obviously they've got deals to worry about in the offseason, but that's a whole other topic for another day, is what's going to happen in the offseason when you have Fred VanVleet gone and OG Anunoby and guys like that. What are you going to do? Are they going to re-sign or not? But the Raptors have such a well-fitting team. They won the championship last year. They come into this playoff, and they're already confident. Their bus says world champs on it. You could tell they have a lot of confidence coming into this. You've got to look at it. Kyle Lowry, he's such a great player. He's so overlooked. Pascal Siakam, he's starting to be recognized for his game, what he's doing. Fred VanVleet, still overlooked. He's a guy that's been very underestimated in what he can do. And he was the guy that was like their key successor in last season's playoffs in the finals. He kind of proved like that he was the go-to player if they need that final shot off. Him and Kawhi were those guys that they had. It's such a great fitting team. And Nick Nurse, some people don't even put him in his possible Coach of the Year candidates. And he's led this team to 2 years in a row with 50-win seasons, with a team that missed Kawhi almost all of last season, and a team that missed Pascal Siakam for a couple games this season, Kyle Lowry for a couple games this season. They're star players. And they dominated so many teams. They dominated the Clippers. They dominated the Lakers. That's very rare you'll hear me say a team dominated the Lakers would be my favorite team ever. And I got to be honest, they showed dominance in so many series. And it's like you check the scores when the season begins. You're scrolling through Twitter. You're like, the Raptors just beat the Clippers by 20. Okay, that's weird. Got to be a mistake. Refresh. Raptors 2 days later beats the Lakers by 12. Okay, this team's a problem. That team's a problem. You don't expect that out of such a unhealthy team, but yet they're not even young. They're all guys that came from the G League, and it's like the memes that you make about the Wizards. They're a D League team. They're not going to make it anywhere. Well, if they pull Raptors, they're going to make it somewhere in the future. But the Raptors is one of those teams that I have as a shocker as what could win it all. Another team is the Thunder. The Thunder is going to surprise many people. Chris Paul, 35 years old, he's looking for his championship, looking for his first one. I guarantee you go inside this player's mind, and he's thinking, I can't make it. I can't win it all this year, but I can sure as heck put up a fight and prove what I can do. And he already averaged like 20 points a game and 9 assists a game in this regular season. Was a great mentor for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and it's the first time that he really checked his ego out the door. When he was with the Clippers a couple years back, he had his ego got ahead of him. His ego kind of threw off Lob City. So many egos clashed. He was with the Rockets. Just not a good fit between him and James Harden. He was too much of a playmaker for James Harden to already be a playmaker, and you can't really have 2 star playmakers playing alongside each other. It just co-horses together, and James Harden's not always the guy to perform in the clutch, and Chris Paul has never been the guy you want in the clutch, but they're such a greatly built team, and you wouldn't expect after that Paul George trade they made earlier in the year that they'd be already the 4th seed in the West, and they beat the Clippers a couple of times, and it's just such a shocker to see how well this team perform. They're not going to win it all, but they're definitely going to put up a fight. I'd say at best we see a Western Conference Finals matchup, and at worst I say second round. But that's all we have for this week on the Shot Clock podcast. It's crazy to see the league's finally back. The NBA is back. Like I mentioned, it's so fun being able to watch games, lay in your living room, and be able to be like, wow, we actually have something to watch besides sitcoms, like I mentioned earlier. And the league's finally back, like I said. But guys, thank you for tuning into the Shot Clock. I hope you guys enjoy. Be sure to check it out on Instagram at the Shot Clock Pod, and we'll see you guys next week.